All right, let's get started, everyone. Tonight, we're changing the format of our regular committee of the whole meeting and starting out in the auditorium to talk about our reconfiguration plan and give the community a chance to get an update on where we are and where we're going next school year. After we have this section of the committee of the whole meeting, we will be meeting in the library afterwards and conduct normal business. Just to get started, before we get into where we are with our plans right now, I just wanted to take a few minutes and go over why we're here. And it really started out with the 2017-18 budget process, and we did start out with a deficit of close to $8 million, a negative fund balance, and we had a drastic amount of cuts that we needed to consider for the upcoming school year. So in order to really balance our budget, one of the things we felt we needed to do was move ahead with our reorganization plan, which would save us upwards of $5 million a year. Again, I guess before I go any further, I should take a minute and have everybody up here at the table introduce themselves. And Pam, could you start?
Hello, my name is Pam Wiley. I'm the wellness and fitness person in the district.
Lindsay Calhoun, I'm a family and consumer science teacher. I was here at East this past school year, and I will be at the new Erie High School next school year.
My name is Heather Cutter. I was also here at East High School as the family consumer science teacher, and I will also be at Erie High next year.
I'm Dana Gilmore. I'm currently the principal at Deal, and next year I'll be the dean of the Performing and Visual Arts Academy housed at Collegiate.
And I'm Jill Crable. I'm currently the principal at East High, and next year I will be co-principal at Erie High.
I'm Pam Mikowski. I'm currently the director and principal at Central Tech, and I will be the director of Career and Tech at Erie High School next year.
I'm Mike Pisano, and I'm currently assistant principal at Strong Vincent, and next year I'll be co-principal at Erie High School.
B. Habersky, assistant superintendent.
Brian Polito, I'm the current CFO and incoming superintendent.
Nora Dolak, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Sherry Prater, I'm currently the principal of Strong Vincent High School. I will be the incoming principal of East Middle School.
Jeff Hutchison, I'm the assistant principal right now at Roosevelt Middle School. I'll be the incoming principal at Strong Vincent Middle School.
Neil Brockman, I'm the coordinator of alternative programming.
I'm Angie Kanaki. I'm the Director of Pupil Services.
Linda Capabianca, and I am a supervisor for special education and English as a second language.
I'm Daria Devlin, Coordinator of Grants and Community Relations.
Thank you, everyone. So as we moved towards reorganization, we really had 4 goals that we considered as part of this process. Number one, we wanted to place as many students in the most serviceable buildings, provide a more efficient middle school experience, obtain some uniformity among our elementary configuration, and also reduce the number of students leaving for charter at the middle and high school level. So after some pretty extensive meetings with the community, getting input from all the stakeholders, we really settled on a reorganization proposal that has multiple magnet programs at the high school level located at both Collegiate and Central Tech, repurposing Strong Vincent and East as middle schools, taking 2 of our older elementary buildings offline, which also provided for a consistent pre-K-5 elementary configuration and boundaries that really addressed some of the walking concerns we had with our existing boundaries. And this is really the format that we ended up with. And again, when we're all said and done over the last several years, we've actually taken six buildings offline here in the district. And this is the configuration for the boundary map for the elementary schools and for the middle schools. So we started out our reorganization process with a series of community meetings. Those occurred in March with a final proposal presented to the board on April 19th. Once we received the go-ahead to start planning this process, we really began the work in earnest and formed our reorganization committees, and that's where we're at right now. A lot of the work has begun, and tonight we're really having this public meeting to talk about the progress we've made on the reconfiguration and what the schools are going to look like next year, especially the schools that have changed so significantly. And this is the timeline that we did establish, and as you can see, we're pretty far through it. We've really done a lot of the work needed to get everything prepared for next year. We actually began moving the Roosevelt to Strong Vincent yesterday, and we'll move the rest of those buildings here over the next month. What we have left right now is the teacher assignments. Those will be finalized at the end of the month. A very important piece of this is the Serve Erie project over at Central, which will occur on July 20th, and also they've agreed to help us out with some of the other things that we need up at that building as far as dividing walls and preparing the building for students over the next month as well. So just to give you an update on Central Tech, especially in consideration of the fire that occurred there a couple weeks ago, we feel that things are moving along very well. The remediation work has been moving along a lot quicker than I expected personally, and we really don't see any issue with the company BMS CAT meeting the 7/15 deadline to get all that type of work done. We did have the Roosevelt students come in and retrieve their personal items this past week. We're still working with the insurance company and the remediation company on identifying the personal belongings of the students on the Central side and determining which belongings we will be able to release and which belongings the insurance company will deem as lost, and they will at that point then reimburse the families for the value of the contents. So this is an overview of the first floor of Central, and I just wanted to give everyone kind of a snapshot of where we are with the building. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, that's the front of the building, so that's Cherry Street. On the right-hand side is the Roosevelt wing, in the center is the auditorium, gymnasium, swimming pool, and cafeteria. And the left-hand side, circled in blue, is the vocational side of the building, and that's really where almost all the damage occurred with the fire. And so the area that is squared off in blue, that's where all the remediation work is taking place right now. The area in orange is areas that we've already identified that we are not going to be able to work with next year. So the fire started in the landscaping in the horticulture department and spread upstairs and into the welding wing. Those areas right now, we know that we're not going to be able to use those next year, but we're very hopeful and working with the insurance company to try to get the rest of that wing up and running by the start of the school year so that we don't have to consider relocating the tool and die shop, the machine shop, auto mechanics, those type of things. So that's one of our #1 priorities right now. And then the upstairs, again, the blue area is where they're doing the remediation, and the orange area, the complete upstairs of the C wing, will not be able to be used next year. So again, once we get the total scope and identify whether or not we'll be able to use part of the C wing next year, that will help us determine if we will need to bring in temporary classrooms or relocate some of those programs off campus for part or all of the school year. But as for everything else, again, the remediation is going very well. The areas highlighted in yellow were areas that we identified early on that we needed to do some type of renovation, and it's more basic renovations, such as splitting the classrooms into two. That work is moving with the help of our own staff and Serve Erie. We feel that we are still going to be able to move forward and get most, if not all, of that work done by the start of the next school year. So moving into logistics, I'd just like to turn it over to Nora, and she's going to talk a little bit about where we are with the moves.
This slide and the next show the work of the Logistics Committee, where the focus is on packing and distribution of materials for the reconfigured buildings. So what you can see is a legend at the top that shows Blue is a possible workaround, a lot of which has occurred since the fire. Yellow is on hold pending fire remediation. And then green, just this week, we have several green boxes because that work is done. It's really pretty impressive progress considering all of the roadblocks that we've run into. This lays out the work, and so even if there's a reason why something can't happen on the day that it's slated, there is always another project that can be undertaken. And we meet weekly to update this with the whole group, but Eric Siebert and Paul Fielek have been updating daily to let me know and so that I can update this as to progress. So, and if we look at this is this week, so we're just out of school and already have packed up all the materials from the Boys and Girls Club and moved them to their destination. And the TAs have packed materials at Emerson, Gridley, and Wayne where they are closing. And that's the wrong way. Okay, so then next week, what's already done, all of Roosevelt's materials have been moved to Strong Vincent Middle School. It shows in green teachers and staff may be packing this week. We were actually able to do that last week, so that was fortuitous. Yellow, we will not this week have weight room materials from Strong Vincent and East, but we are looking to have teams work out at the Strong Vincent weight room as a workaround. So again, there's a lot happening and very impressive work from these groups who are out there in our hot buildings doing the lifting and heavy lifting of this reconfiguration.
And Nora, when do we expect to have the buildings moved completely? What's the timeline at this point?
It stages out over, through the end of June. There's another, this is just a snapshot, so there's another whole page for July. And in progressive stages, because some things have to happen before other things do, it scales out through the beginning of August.
Okay, thanks. And Cerveri, again, is really stepping up and helping us with that move and has agreed to provide us volunteers to move those materials over the rest of the summer. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Bea to talk about programming.
Sure. One of the things, too, that when we talked about the committee work, after the listening tours, we listened to many of the community members who shared pieces that they had concerns and they had ideas. And from that, that's how we determined the committees that we have pulled together. And so we've been working for April, May, and June on a regular basis. So the logistics committee that Nora just spoke about has been working every week at 8 a.m. to really hash out everything until the students were gone, and now all through June, July, and August. So and the teachers when they had left as well. So that committee has been working. They will continue working all summer long on the logistics of the transformation that we're talking about. The other piece that I wanted to share also had to do with Edison School. Edison is a community school, and it's working with General Electric, and they also are doing a community days, and that is July 17th and 18th. They are going to be working at Edison to do some updates. So we have a few different projects going on. The biggest one, of course, is Cerveri, but if that's when you're vacationing, we still have other places and other things that are going on. WJET is also doing one this Friday, tomorrow, in 2 days, where they're coming in and assisting us in doing some movement. So we appreciate all of the help that the community is bringing forward with all of these. The other group that I'd like to start to talk about is the programming side, and that has been working again since April, May, and June. The actual programming committee has been working, but then when we determined which administrative teams are going to be working in which buildings, we've been meeting on a regular basis with them as well. And so I'd like to share our Erie High administrative team. I know we introduced the three at the rally, when we had the rally at the stadium. But as Ms. Makowski stated, she is the Director of Vocational at Erie High. Jill Crable will be spearheading the curriculum in the magnet schools at Erie High. And Mr. Pisano will be doing student services and working with our student discipline at Erie High. On the assistant principal, we have Mr. Mifsud, who is from East High, moving over to Erie High. We have Miss Pam Tonti and Mr. Jason Bergert, and they both are currently at Central Tech and will be at Erie High. Mr. Mo Troop is a current teacher with us, and he is moving over as an assistant principal at Erie High. And then our two curriculum assistant principals, really working with Miss Crable on those strands of the magnet schools in the next few years will be Mr. Rick Snyder, coming from Collegiate Academy, and Mr. Jesse Williams, who is the current assistant principal at Wayne School. Our projected enrollment is 23,000 students.
2,300.
Excuse me. Thank you, 2,300 students. So at this time, I'd like to turn over to the other committee that we have, which is the Safety Committee, and Mr. Neil Brockman has been spearheading that committee. Mr. Brockman?
Thank you. I'm glad it's not 23,000, by the way. So as Ms. Sabursky mentioned, the committees were formed in late March. At that time, the Safety Committee was created, which is a team made up of building administrators, district level administrators, teachers, the chief of police for the school district force. And so as part of the listening tour, we listened to some of the concerns of both the parents and teachers and public at large. We also did several walkthroughs of the Central Tech building to kind of come up with what the needs are and how we feel we can best serve the students from a facility standpoint and anything else. And so to speak a little bit more about the specifics, I'll let Mr. Pisano talk a little bit about how his team is shaping up.
So on the first slide here, we're talking about support team assignments. We're going to have 3 to 4 adults working with the same group of kids throughout the course of the building. So it'll be broken up alphabetically. So that group of adults will be working with family members, brothers, sisters. The parents in the community will be dealing with the same adults each time, where they aren't having different people calling about their students each time, positive or negatively. Cameras in the building. We've been working on that the last few months. There's going to be around 250 inside and outside. The police presence, 5 to 6 district police officers spread out around the building. A couple on the second floor, they'll be spread out in some different offices. A couple on the first floor, a couple towards the front.
Before you move on, the support team assignments, I just want to reiterate that right now, currently, you've been doing that at Strong Vincent, and it also is occurring at East High. So that model, the students are used to, and one of the things that our administrative team has stated is that it builds relationships with students. So the students will know the same group of adults from their 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
And the family too. That's one big thing, where you're always dealing with you're dealing with those family members, and the family members get to build that relationship with that support team in the building on a regular basis. So another safety issue that people have been concerned with, and it was brought up at the tours, was wanding, and we do some of that already at Strong Vincent and East. As students enter the building, we may have 3 different areas. Students enter the building. We'll have a team there that will randomly wand students. That could happen on a daily basis, as well as some other wanding that we've done to help with safety in the 2 buildings is we'll go to specific rooms. We'll pick a handful of rooms throughout the course of the day, whether it be morning or afternoon, and we'll wand the students in the classroom. That way, students, staff members, everybody has a better feeling of security and being safe within the building. Students don't know when it's happening. They don't know what periods we're doing it. They don't know, in the mornings we could pick every 5th person. There'll be a different number every day. So it isn't no one's being targeted when we're wanding students as they walk in the building. It'll be a set specific number, and that can change daily. The blue coats has been something that they've been working within our community and out in and outside the buildings the last few years. We are going to have a handful of Blue Coats outside before and after school. This has helped at Strong Vincent dramatically while I've been there over the last 8-9 years, keeping the kids moving, keeping them moving onto their houses so there aren't any issues in or around the building. Blue Coats also are working with us, through some things this summer, where they're going to be coming in and talking with the football team. When the football team's practicing, we might go down there, talk to the kids about unifying, how we want them to, be together when we start the school year, some different things, through football, basketball, any other programs that we have with students. We're going to try to contact as many of them as we can this summer. This is a big one with EMTA, making sure the buses are on time at dismissal time. If we have 22, 23, 2,400 students leaving that building at whatever the dismissal time is going to be, it's a great advantage to have the buses there right at that time or waiting for our bell to dismiss. A lot of issues at Strong Vincent and East occur if we're waiting for the buses 15, 20, 25 minutes outside. Kids are dismissed. They're waiting around, playing around, waiting for the buses. That's when we have issues. If those buses are there and EMTA is working with us, that can be a huge piece to keeping everybody safe after school. That's good. Okay. Teacher preps. We have been discussing that possibly we could be using a handful of teachers throughout the day when they're off to help monitor certain, hot spots in the building that maybe that's a big building. There's a lot of areas in that building we got to keep an eye on. We may use a handful of those teachers to help monitor those areas when they're off. The block scheduling was a big key point. We do it at Vincent and East right now. I worked at both buildings when we didn't have block. Once we did go to block, the less transitions was so important. When we're only transitioning 3 or 4 times a day, it's huge when we can keep the students in the class or we're not transitioning 7, 8 times a day. The summer plans I kind of talked about, there is a game for peace on Saturday at 5 o'clock at Gannon. The Blue Coats and Coach Pulliam has been working on that. That is something that we started probably 6 or 7 years ago. We actually used to run it during the school year, East and Vincent. It would be a game for peace. This is East and Vincent alumni, and that's going on this Saturday. And then also at dismissal, Chief Bona and myself, we were in a meeting with the Chief of Police and the DA, and they were just asking us what can they do to help. And we were explaining that we're going to have 2,400, 2,500 kids leaving at the same time every day. What we've realized, if we had some police, cruisers just monitoring the neighborhoods, circling around, it keeps the kids moving. We realized that at Strong Vincent where, if they're around, the kids just keep moving. They aren't trying to stop. They're not looking to cause problems. They're just continuing to move on to their houses.
Thank you. Ms. Devlin?
So I'm a little at a disadvantage because I can't see the slide, so I'm just going to summarize. Of course, as Mr. Brockman and Mr. Pisano mentioned, the culture at the school is important. So we've been working with the students. We started working with them before the year ended. 24 kids that were picked by their existing principals came together, helped us, well publicized in terms of what the new name for the school would be, the mascot, the colors that were chosen. It's been very positive. Great to hear from the kids, their suggestions on how to keep that culture building. We hope to work with them over the summer more, as Mr. Pisano mentioned. And the other issue, we want to make sure that high school families receive information about. Most of them know where they'll be attending, but we just want to reinforce with them. We're welcoming them. We can't wait for the year to get started. There is an open house, kind of a grand opening of the school on the 24th of August, so families will be notified about that. So just really working to keep that positive messaging going with the students and with the administration over the summer.
Thank you.
In transportation, we're still working with the MTA and our goal right now is to provide as much transportation to as many students as possible. We're hoping that by doing a staggered start with, right now we're looking at possibly starting the high school about an hour before the elementary school. With that staggered start, that we'll be able to better utilize EMTA's resources and transport both elementary and middle and high school students. Again, we're working to refine that. Right now, we have the go-ahead from EMTA that they will be able to accommodate us, but we do need some help from our charter and private schools to help line up their schedules and start and stop times with ours. And we have our first meeting scheduled tomorrow with them to try to make that happen. And again, we're hopeful that through this, we'll be able to transport many more students with this reconfiguration than we have in the past.
So Ms. Crable will speak regarding our programming that will take place at Erie High.
Okay, so we have scheduling basically completed on paper with all rising grade levels. Each grade level had the opportunity prior to the release of school to schedule and look at schedule cards. And I think we have an example of the schedule card coming up. Want to go back? Or, yeah, there it is. This is an example of our new 9th grade scheduling card that our 8th grade counselors met with our rising 9th graders to go over this, and you can see there's several options for electives for them to choose from. We have 2 magnets that we have up and running for the start of the school year, the child development and the exercise and sports medicine, which we'll go into a little bit more detail in a little bit there. We also have the opportunity to continue with our freshman seminar class. And in the freshman seminar class, we are going to be able to do exploratory options for those 9th graders who are undecided as to what exactly they want to do. They're going to be able to go into our career and tech labs and get a little taste of different labs to see if that might be something that they would be interested in the future. So that's part of our freshman and exploratory academy we have and are able to offer next year.
So our current vocational program is going to remain unchanged. So all the programs that we currently have, we will be offering next year as well. However, we will be expanding those elective offerings. At this time, I'd like to introduce Heather Cutter and Lindsay Calhoun. And they are going to speak regarding one of the strands that we've been working on, one of the pathways, which is the Child Development Associate Program.
Thanks. Today we're talking about the Child Development Associate Program, which we've been developing all this school year, initially to start at East next year, but now obviously it will be starting at Erie High. The next one we'll be talking about is the educational paraprofessional certification that we've really started initiating for starting this next school year, and we'll start the education classes the following year. We just kind of wanted to highlight the CDA program, the Child Development Associate Program. You'll see that it starts out with 4 courses here: Child Development 1, Child Development 2. That's basically their first year, and we're starting students as incoming sophomores in this program. So as a sophomore, they'll take Child Development 1 and 2. Those classes are open to all students. We encourage our parenting students to take these classes, and but any student can take these. Once they get to, let's go here. Okay, I'm trying to cut out some slides because we have a lot. This program is taught by the Family Consumer Science teachers, and we're also collaborating with the parenting program. Cooperating with local higher education, we've, in earlier meetings, we've talked to the local colleges, and so when students finish our CDA program, they will have college credits to go to college with after they graduate from our program. The next slide we have is our curriculum map.
Okay, so as highlighted, as we said, the classes for the CDA will start in 10th grade, with our focus being for you to take Child Development 1 and Child Development 2, because you have to be on track and take the classes for over 3 years in order for you to get your certification and get it squeezed in within the 3 years. For the 9th grade there, these are just additional elective courses that we would like students to take that would help in their certification and in their future with working with children, sociology and psychology. And then again, for 10th grade, they will take Child Development 1 and Child Development 2. These classes, the 9th and 10th grade ones, are open electives, so any student, regardless if you're taking the CDA certification or just interested in taking some different classes, you have the option there. For our 11th and 12th grade year, these classes are strictly for the CDA. These are required in order for you to take them. You have to be admitted into the CDA program. All right. So you would take the Child Development Lab, which is a full year, half-day program every day, where you would go in and you would go into multiple classes, and we're going to utilize our elementary and our pre-K programs here in the district to get students, working with young children, because that's the point of the class. And then for their 12th grade year, they can have the opportunity to additionally take Child Development Labs, because it's required for their certification that they get 480 hours of classroom experience. So they can continue with that in their 12th grade year and additionally take a CDA ready class that helps them get ready to take their CDA exam for them to pass and get their certification.
So we kind of outlined the classes. I'll just quickly go through this. This is obviously the first class, Child Development 1. Any student in the district can take this. We're encouraging it to be taken in order for our CDA students.
And it is, we are hoping to push this for it to be required for all parenting students, just to help them with their personal and then possibly even future education.
The Child Development 2 class goes from toddler to preschooler in the curriculum, and it's also encouraged for our parenting students to take. But this is also an open elective for any student at Erie High.
The Child Development Lab, as we said, this is where they will go in and go into our current our current elementary school buildings and work with our pre-K students just to gain that classroom experience working with small children. This class is not an open elective. You do have to be admitted into this program by successfully completing the first 2 classes. And then our last one, as we mentioned, is our CDA ready class, helping them get ready and, on the way so that they can, while they're in the building still, we don't want them, to be completed with school and trying to get the certification and get it completed. Our goal is for them to have it completed before the end of the year and they are graduated, so they can take this with them when they go.
The one thing I'd like to point out from this slide that we're very proud of is that upon completion of all the requirements of the CDA certification is awarded, and 9 credit hours are awarded to the certified candidate from area colleges. So our students from the CDA program, yes, they can leave with a credential that can help them get hired, but or they can choose to continue their education and have 9 credits to start with, which is pretty big. Which I just kind of covered here, sorry. We also wanted to touch on this. This is a program that Jill was talking about this year, and we've kind of been looking at it, and we actually can start this year because the first requirement of the incoming students is the sociology and psychology credits. So basically, this will be the kids will be able to sign up for this the following school year for the education classes. This is a 4-year program for incoming freshmen. So our plan is to try to get the same type of support from area colleges. Obviously, we have a few more pieces to put in place before we continue with this. We do have an outline of the courses that we're going to be offering. Child development, psychology, and sociology are all going to be offered next year, which is the first year of credits. Then they'll move on to introduction to education, introduction to exceptionalities, classroom management. There's a classroom rotation that's going to be included, and then we'll have an ACT or SAT prep course.
And here's the curriculum map for the education paraprofessional certification. So their 9th grade year, as we said, we are ready to start this for next year with our Child Development 1 class that is available to be offered, and then the Psychology and Sociology for the following year. In their 10th grade year, they would need to take 2 of the following courses there, the Intro to Education and the Introduction to Exceptionalities. Then their 11th grade year, Classroom Management and SAT Prep. And then for their 12th grade year, as we said, the classroom rotations, it's also suggested that they get a CPR certification. And then they, at that point, after taking such, would be able to take the Erie School District Paraprofessional exam, which would enable them to go in and start working as an aide in the classroom.
Okay, so the end game for this one is also that they'll be able to have a certification credential to enter the workforce, or hopefully, if our plan works out, they will have some credits at a local college. We had a few ideas for the future that we had talked about this year, but these are not to be offered yet. They still need some work, but that's about it.
Could you ladies just share a little bit? They're also planning our middle school, because this is the first year that we'll have Family and Consumer Science back in the middle schools. Can you just briefly just touch on some of the things you talked about in the past week?
Okay. The middle school offerings are going to be kind of overview courses for 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. And in each specific year, there's going to be a certain curriculum that involves foods and nutrition.
There will be an introduction to child development because we want to get our students that are in middle school exposed to what they can be taking in their high school year, so then they can build upon that and have it to expand upon. So yeah, the food and nutrition, the child development, there'll be some projects incorporated with that. They will do career exploration. So yeah, and those are set to start for our coming school year in all of our middle school.
Sewing.
Yes, our project classes.
Yes. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. We also have Pam Wiley, and Pam is going to share some information regarding our Erie High Exercise and Sports Medicine Certified Personal Trainer Program.
Thank you. So this is the Exercise and Sports Medicine Certified Personal Trainer magnet that I'm very excited that we're going to start it beginning of the school year. American College of Sports Medicine, or ACSM, that is the gold standard. ACSM, any study you have ever read about exercise, wellness, fitness, nutrition, whatever you might want to call it, the American College of Sports Medicine, more than likely, were the ones that did the research on it. So it's the gold standard. So for those of you that know me, I couldn't do a presentation without you interacting with me. So we're going to see if all of you out in the audience and all of you on the panel, are you eligible for the ACSM Certified Personal Trainer exam? So I'm going to show you something. If you meet that qualification, I'd like you just to clap really loud. Clap one time loud, okay? Are you ready? Okay, let's try it. First qualification. Are you 18 years of age or older? Okay, 1 for 1. Number 2. Do you have a high school diploma or equivalent? Okay, 2 for 2. So far, we all can take the exam together. Last one. Are you CPR certified? Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So anyways, these are the qualifications that you would need to take the exam to become a certified personal trainer. So this magnet, the purpose will be the students getting into this magnet will take coursework to train them to get to the point that when they meet these qualifications, they can take the exam to become a certified personal trainer. So what does that mean? A certified personal trainer, these students then can go to a YMCA, a fitness club, corporate fitness, a hospital, have their own studio, and do personal training. Likewise, they can take this, they can go on to college if they get their bachelor's degree ACSM has the next level of certification. And as they continue to get more education, would take a higher level of certification through ACSM. But this at least is the entry into this whole world of exercise and wellness and fitness, which is really fantastic. So, how do we create an exercise and sports medicine magnet? So in thinking about this, it all started in the Health and Physical Education Department. This started 4 years ago, even before we started thinking about reorganizing. 4 years ago, we went down the track where we have a sequential K-12 district comprehensive curriculum. And we changed our curriculum where we're teaching lifelong physical fitness. And you can see the overall goal that the Health and Phys Ed Department, we want to be the #1 urban district leading the way for lifelong physical fitness and health. So we've been building the foundation for 4 years. We also have now fitness centers, and we reorganized the fitness centers, so we have 3 fitness centers now in the middle schools, 2 in our 2 high schools. These fitness centers will train students coming up through the curriculum, but these will now become the labs. So that students, as they're in this magnet, we will be using these fitness centers to learn the skills, the knowledge, and the content that they will need to become a certified personal trainer. Now this, it's pretty detailed there, but this is just projecting out the next 3 school years. So starting in the fall, the next school year, 17-18, we're going to call these cohorts. And first cohort will be the 10th graders. They're going to take, you can see listed there, they're going to take 2 new courses, cultural competence, and we have textbook, and fitness and health. And then the second cohort will be the 9th graders that will get into the program just starting with the cultural competence. Next year also, we will be working with local universities. In fact, the newspaper article just last week talking about these magnets attracted the attention of some of the universities, and we have a meeting about doing the same thing as the child development. So we're excited about that. Year 2 then, we add in yet another cohort, and we move on to cohort 1 is taking the next level of courses. They're getting into then athletic training, chronic illnesses, and then you can see by the 3rd year, we'll have 4 cohorts going. Each year, they're learning more and more things. So cohort 1 that starts in the fall, in 2 years, their whole year will be training for this exam that they will take at the end of the school year. Oop. So I'll just continue on here. So what will happen? So come spring of 2020, that will be the first time that we will have students from Erie High School sitting for the Certified Personal Trainer exam. So I'm really excited. I love the year 2020 Certified Personal Trainers coming out of the Erie High School. And I'm dedicating myself to train these kids along with other colleagues in my department. We're developing a faculty to get them to that point that they can do this. I think the kids are really going to love it. It's going to be exciting, and we can do this. Because you know why? Let me tell you why. All of you in this room, you in the audience, everyone up here, we have power. Power definition. We have confidence, you have competence, and you have enthusiasm. Competence, confidence, and enthusiasm. All of us are bringing power to this whole new exciting reorganization. So I leave you with the goal that we in the Health and Physical Education Department had 4 years ago, being the #1 urban phys ed department in the state. And I truly believe that with these magnets, we can then take these, just like the Medal of Honor, where they go out to other school districts and train them. We're going on a plane, Lindsay, and we're going to train other districts on how to do these things. I see it. It's going to happen. So if you have any information more about, would like information, go to acsm.org, and you can learn all about the Certified Personal Trainer exam, or feel free to shoot me an email. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pam. I am going to shoot it over to Pam Makowski, who's going to talk a little bit about how our vocational tracks or pathways will change or not change. So we're on comparisons. Do you have the?
We, as we change our schedule, the current career and tech schedule from a 7-period day to a block schedule, it opens up a lot more opportunities for the 9th and 10th grade students. On the left, you see their current schedule where they spend 3 periods in career and tech, and then they have their 4 core courses. On the right, you'll see next year's schedule. When we go to an AB block, they'll have 1 block of career and tech and then their 4 core classes, and they'll actually be able to take 3 electives. And I know our current 9th and 10th graders are really excited about this because they've never had this opportunity before. That they can actually take, when we went in with the schedule cards, they were so excited because they could take art, they can take music, they could take chorus. I can't tell you how many kids signed up for classical piano. I was on the floor, I couldn't believe it. We'll need more, yeah, we'll need more pianos. But they are really, really excited about this. The 11th and 12th graders then will take a half day of career and tech just like they do now in order to preserve their co-op opportunities. And so they'll stay in a half day as opposed to just the 1 period like the underclassmen. But this just gives them so many more opportunities for Erie High School next year. The other thing is we added, because of the student demand and the number of students that have applied to the programs, we added a computer technology course for next year that coincides with our computer programming course, and then we added a second cosmetology teacher, and we're going to expand the cosmetology program.
So by consolidating, we're able to offer a more robust program in many of the areas. We also had a chance to look at our students to see what are their needs and are we meeting all of their needs. And so I'm going to send this over to Neil, who's going to share a little bit about a recovery academy that we're also incorporating.
Thank you. So what we did is we started looking at the student population that maybe we weren't reaching, or the ones that have unfortunately maybe fallen behind on credits, and the inevitable is we don't want them to drop out. I mean, that is the last thing that we want. And so in creating the recovery program, we are targeting, at first, we're going to start looking at next year's would-be juniors and seniors. We targeted about 180 of them, and letters went home to those families along with a flyer describing what the Recovery Academy is, trying to get them to join this program so that we can get them back on track with the goal of, if they are a junior, they can rejoin their senior class the next year, or if they're a senior, we can get them to be able to walk across the stage and gain that diploma, which they want. All the students, I think, in Erie's public schools want that. So the program is basically a hybrid. The students will come in a split session. There will be an AM session and a PM session. During that time, we are going to give them fundamental instruction in the 4 core areas so that when they move on or when they go and utilize the online program to gain the credits back, that they will be prepared to do so. It's a blend between face-to-face instruction and the success that we've had with our current cyber academy. Part of this whole thing is the thought that we're not just educating them so that they can get a diploma, but we want to make them a better person in the end. And so part of this process is that with every single kid that joins the academy, we will create a student portfolio, which will measure their interests, their talents, their dislikes, their likes, so that they can be part of the creating of short and long-term goals that every productive adult does. I'm sure everybody in this room has short and long-term goals, and so we want to instill that in the students. The program is going to be located at the Family Center, 913 Payne, and like I said before, the goals are to increase the graduation rate and get those kids back in with their cohorts so that they can walk across the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have what we have been working on is a newcomer academy, and Ms. Capabianca is going to explain that one.
Thank you. For those of you who may not know, we have a large population of English learners within the district. I think this year we had, well, I know this year we had about 1,061 English learners, and we enrolled about 80 at the middle school level and 80 at the high school level just this year alone. So what we currently do at the high school is more of what they call a content-based instruction. And that is, although we do try to put some of that, while they're learning their English, that English language development class, while they're learning it, we're still trying to expose them to the content that all the other children in the school are receiving. And we do some functional English, but not enough. And the reason why I say that is I started in this program as a supervisor in February of 2009, and the children we were enrolling, the refugee children we were receiving in the district, many of them were coming to us being taught in English, having English textbooks, and we're thriving. I mean, some of them came in, and we test them automatically when they come in if their home language survey reads something other than English is spoken at home. And, some of them went right into their, 11th grade classroom without any support from an ESL teacher. And the students that we're receiving now have, the groups that we've been receiving now have been having very limited, if any, education. And so I'm really excited about this change because although that model wasn't unsuccessful, I don't know if I necessarily think it's meeting the needs of the children that we're seeing now. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. It's really gives them an opportunity to, it's like an adjustment period. It gives them an opportunity to come into school to a nurturing environment, to a safe environment. It's very much about developing their English language, giving them the tools they need to be successful so then when they go out into the general education classrooms, they have that language, they have that vocabulary to be successful. It's really only supposed to be for a short period of time. Most of the time, it's about a 2-year time. It depends on the students, not only newly arrived, so they're first year, second year students, but also their English language proficiency level. And that comes from when we do give them their test before they even come into school. Like I said, we test all of them depending on their home language survey. And, so they have to have a low English language proficiency level as well as being new to the country. And it's about meeting the needs, the whole child. Not just their academic needs, but their social needs, their emotional needs. So I'm really excited about it. It's a program that we are going to be doing at Erie High, and we're also going to be bringing it down to the middle school as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We did have a few people who had mentioned questions regarding special education. So the Director of Special Pupil Services, Ms. Kanacki.
Thank you. Well, throughout the reorganization process, we wanted to make sure that we were considering the needs of, our most vulnerable population. One thing that has been a priority is that we maintain educational equity for all of our students. One concern that the public had expressed was that some of our special education students transitioned more than their same age peers. And so we wanted to try to take this opportunity during the reorganization to try to correct that. So what we're working to do is to make sure that our students maintain the same building through their K-5 education and then their 6 to 8 education, and then obviously their high school education. In a perfect world, we'd be able to maintain them in the same building through K-5 and then have them transition with their peers to the middle school that they should be feeding to. We're not sure at this point whether or not we're going to be able to do that, but we're going to try to do that. We're currently in the process of assessing classroom spaces to try to do that, as well as to meet the PA regulations with regard to special education programs. We have to ensure that every classroom has at least 28 square feet per student, and that it's in the ebb and flow of the building, meaning that those programs are occurring in the same general vicinity of regular education programming. So we're working right now to try to ensure that. Another thing that we're working on is trying to make sure that we can support our students so that we can have a representative special education population in all of the magnet programs. Currently, we have around 18% of our population is special needs, and it's looking like we're going to be able to achieve that. So we're working now to ensure that we can provide a continuum of support in all of our magnet programs so that our special education students can be successful in those programs.
Thank you very much. Ms. Devlin's going to speak to the athletics that have been happening, the planning.
So Mr. Dahlstrand wasn't able to be here tonight, so I just wanted to speak briefly about athletics because, of course, that's something we get a lot of questions about. I think many of us feel like this is an opportunity to restart our athletics program. We see a lot of potential in it, and so we're very excited about the unified team that will be playing at Erie High School, but also making sure that the varsity coaches that will be hired in those positions are aligning programs all the way down to the middle school. We know that very often our parochial and suburban peers do an excellent job of feeding students up through their systems, and we can create a similar program. We also want to make sure that our families have free and appropriate programs here in our district, which we know we can provide for them, so that they don't have to go out to other places or even pay for programs that they don't need to. So we're working on all of that. We're very lucky through the private funding, through the Partnership for Erie's Public Schools, we will be able to provide all new uniforms for all the teams at Erie High School. Of course, we could have used what we had before from East and Vincent and from Central, but really knew we wanted those kids to come in fresh and be unified. So all new uniforms purchased for all the teams with private funding, not district dollars. The vendor we've been using has been wonderful to work with, and we think the students are going to be very excited. The last thing I want to say is we're working to improve communications around athletics, making sure our website is up to date with schedules and practices, making sure our principals know how those athletic programs are going to run, and so that families can easily access them. So that's also something we really want to make sure we're improving going into the next school year.
Thank you. And Mr. Gilmore is going to speak regarding our Visual and Performing Arts Academy.
I'm really glad that we were able to get this Performing Visual Arts Academy off the ground. The bottom line is that students in the Erie School District have a lot of talent in the fine arts, and it's very important that we foster those students to actually have a chance to really use that as a programming track for them all the way through their high school, and that's why this program was created. As of now, we have had 175 slots available. We have 106 students that have been accepted, and the letters have gone out today with 30 more pending. And so that means that there are still additional slots for the program. The application is open online through the Erie School District website through this coming Friday, and if you access eriesd.org and go on the Collegiate Academy, under schools, you will find the magnet application there. And the prerequisite for this program, again, is that the students must have a strong interest in the performing or visual arts or have been involved in that before. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in school. If a student has been taking dance lessons privately or involved in community theater or maybe sings in a church choir or something, and they really want to use that as their track through high school, this is the program for them. When it comes to the core academics, it is housed at Collegiate Academy, so you're, just as the other high school offerings are, the students would be required to take their core classes in language arts, math, science and social studies, and wellness fitness. The additional requirement we have is that we want our students in this Performing Visual Arts Academy to take 2 years worth of foreign language. And at the Collegiate Academy and the Performing Visual Arts Academy, their choices are Latin, German, or Spanish. And I can attest to this being very important for students in a fine arts track that want to pursue this in college, because most students, or the students that actually apply in these colleges, the colleges require a foreign language if you're going to be majoring in fine arts. So if the students have this taken care of in high school, then they wouldn't necessarily have to repeat that process again in college. So it gives them a jump ahead. The other two courses that we're requiring of the incoming freshmen for next year as a freshman they need to take are the advanced computer applications and research. We do want to make sure that the students do know how to write and produce a research paper that would be required, and computer applications to make sure that everybody's on the same page when they get through their freshman year here in order to use the technology that's provided. And for the credit program itself, it's 27 credits in a 4-year span, and 6.5 minimum of those are credits in electives, preferably in the fine arts. I do want to let you know right now that we have, for the 2017-18 year, we have 5 students that will be seniors that are accepted, 2 that will be juniors, 10 that will be sophomores, and the remaining will be freshmen. So it is a program that's, we're very excited to get off the ground here. I really feel that it's going to be a lot more than most schools can provide anywhere around for the performing and visual arts. For electives, we have intro level to art, intro to theater, and also within the visual art program, we have a art technology track when it comes to cartooning and animation and art and visual design on a computer. And also we want to increase the ceramics and sculpture from what it is now. Theater, we have a full-time theater department there, so we have an intro to theater, but again, those students that have been involved in community theater, we would provide them an opportunity to take classes beyond intro, of course. And then for the music department, there's quite a wide menu to choose from here when it comes to chorus and instrumental, both intro to band and intro to orchestra if they're just learning an instrument. Or you have more advanced groups, you have your chamber singers, wind ensemble, 2 different levels of jazz band. And Collegiate Academy is lucky enough that they have quite a number of electronic keyboards over there, and we are going to be able to offer Classical Piano 1 and Classical Piano 2 to get those students involved that are very interested in playing piano. So it's going to be a very involved program. We're very excited about it, and thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to kind of switch gears to our middle school for a few moments, and so I'd like to introduce Mr. Hutchinson for our Strong Vincent Middle School.
Hi. So we had a great opportunity to hold some open houses for all of our families. And so we held a 6th grade night, a 7th grade night, and an 8th grade night for incoming students. And we had roughly 600 people attend, about over 200 each night. It was very, very well attended and very, very well received. Going into it, we didn't know what to expect, but the energy and excitement from the families and seeing the children come in and walk around and see something they had heard about, and to see it in action, and to see the staff, and to see the people, it really created a really, really positive buzz for our school, and we were really excited for that. The 2 assistant principals, or vice principals that'll be with us is Chris Popa, who's been my partner for a long time at Roosevelt Middle School. He'll come down with us to Strong Vincent. And then Andrea Gloystein, who's been a long-time school district employee at Grover Cleveland and also at Roosevelt Middle School. She was an assistant principal at Edison last year. She'll also be joining our team. And when I look at those 2 folks, they really have a passion for kids and just an unbelievable desire to want to create something new and special. And I think that's kind of the vision that we're going for at Strong Vincent, is this idea that we have some unique and wonderful, and you've heard it over and over again from all of our groups, programs, facilities in the city of Erie. And I think it's time that our students and our teachers and everybody really, really start to showcase those. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity that, although it's been a lot of work, I think it's been a lot of positive work, and we're really excited. When I look at, we had a lot of discussion, what are you going to call yourselves? And we really felt like the history of Strong Vincent and keeping the Colonel mascot was important, and it's something in the community. And we've really spent some time talking to alumni from Strong Vincent. I know on one of the first days of school, it's always hard showing kids where they go. So I have some former school district employees that are kind enough to lend their support on the first 2 days of school to show their students, or show our students, where room 124 is, because room 124 has been room 124 for a long time. So we'll have a whole lot of people that can show them around. So, and then finally, the piece that was invaluable for us was to be able to sit down with Bea and Brian and Daria and Nora every Wednesday and have a transition meeting, the three of us, and Bea and Brian being a big part of that and saying, have you thought about this? What about that? And being in the room, hands-on, making sure that this is well thought out and well planned. And I just want to thank them for that because it's been invaluable. Sherry will talk about East, and then I'll come back and talk a little specifically about the programming.
At East High School, we also had an open night where parents came in. They had the opportunity to learn more about what we are offering here at East High School, the structure of what their child's class schedules are going to be and what their class schedules are going to look like, and what offerings we will be offering their students that they can participate in. I will be bringing with me my assistant principal from Strong-Vincent High School, Barb Zimmer, who her strength is around academics and curriculum and teaching and learning. Matt Parker will be joining us from Piper Burley, and he's bringing with him some management strengths that will help strengthen the environment here at East Middle School. One of the things that we really talked about hitting home with this middle school structure is coming from a K-8 for middle school students is very different than a true middle school, because a true middle school is the next stepping stone to being able to prepare students to be successful in high school around expectations for academics, around behavior, socially and emotionally. It's an important step before they get there, and that's one thing that we are hoping to provide our students in our environment, and kicking it up to the next level for them around personal expectation, developing goals for their future, etc. We will also maintain our colors for East High and the Warrior mascot as well.
Thank you.
And when we look at programming, when we looked at the listening tours and we walked around, we definitely know this community really likes K-8 models, and we're not using that. So how can we take the strength of what's in a K-8 model and bring that into a middle school? And so the concept is we look at ourselves as a middle school program, all three of us, and not a junior high school. And I think there's a big distinction to understand that in a middle school, there's a different philosophical shift that we make, and not being a junior high school. And so what are some of the differences in that when we talk about a middle school? Basically, this idea of a pod structure, and I heard Mike talk about it a little bit at the high school level, but when we talk about a sixth grade class at Strong-Vincent of 280 students, I don't want the board or the community to feel like a bell's going to ring and 280 kids are all over the building. Essentially, there's a pod structure of 5 teachers. So we don't use bells. We haven't used them at Roosevelt for a long time. The intention is we won't use them at Strong-Vincent. When it's time to switch, we kind of look at the watch and say it's time to switch. And the math class is directly across the hall, and the science class is next door, and the social studies class. Now, to still build into that is the concept of, like Sherry was saying, about making sure we're transitioning these kids and getting them ready for high school. Then, of course, when they do electives in related arts, they're able to travel throughout the building and move throughout the building and have a traditional experience like you would have, like you see in TV shows where kids go all over the place. So the idea of a middle school for us is that pod structure and having teams. And that's really critical about creating teamwork for teachers. The same team of teachers have those 140 students that they share. They know the students, they know the families, and they travel within those 5 or 6 teachers. And that's very similar to a model we've had in our K-8s. So I think as a community member, or as community members look at that, all the middle schools, that pod structure is something we're proud of. We did talk about having an honors academy within each of the schools, and that's something we've been doing for years. Personally, I've been involved in that from my time at Collegiate to, McKinley to, over to East and then back to Roosevelt. And so being well familiar with how to set up the honors academy, we've been doing that for a long time at Strong-Vincent. And I heard Brian mention about an efficient middle school experience. And for many of our students, they haven't had that. We have art every 6 days. We have gym every 6 days. And so how much can you really get done? So one of the big pushes when we did this, and Brian and Bea setting this up, is the idea of bringing these electives to students. So we heard about family and consumer science being a course that all of our students can take. Health and wellness, computer, education, and then music, and then STEM. and making sure when we look at extracurriculars that we have band and chorus, and athletics being an important part of it. You know, we talked about it today, is we do have some really wonderful, talented students here. I think sometimes our size tends to get in our way sometimes, and so I think in getting a little bit leaner, I think we can get a little cleaner in some of our academic and extracurricular activities in our athletics. Gannon Go College will be involved at Strong Vincent, and that's been a very popular program with students. And then Trio will be involved with the program at East High School. And then we will have the Newcomer Academy that Linda mentioned for some of our students that are just coming into the United States, and you know, we don't want to just send them to a middle school and they might be only a handful of students that don't speak English. We can send them to the Newcomer Academy, get them transitioned to school culture and climate, and then hopefully transition them back to where they would be assigned for their traditional middle school. And then probably the most important thing that we think is unique or helpful to us at the middle school level is the idea of the community schools. And we know, I know for Strong Vincent, we're going to have Gannon University, Highmark, United Way, and the Martin Luther King Center. And these are people that have skin in the game and investments in our school and in that neighborhood. And so we have our first meeting set up, and I know Sherry's setting up meetings with her partners. And you know, it's just been really impressive to see this community rally behind it, and it's kind of like we're like the little engine that could. I think we hear that everybody's rooting for us, and I think that we got some pretty powerful people here that know what they're doing, and I think I'm just impressed with all the work that we've done and the teamwork that we've created. So that's a little bit on our middle schools, and we're just really excited to get started.
Before we take questions, I just want to say when the board and Dr. Badams and Brian started talking about the consolidation, and we said, oh, can we do this? Can we do this? The reason we can do it is because of the people that are sitting up here and the many, many other administrators and the teachers and the employees that work for the school district. Though we are underdogs, we care about our students. They're the first and the last that we think about. And though we're coming from different buildings, they're working together to do what's right for our students and to what we can do for our students. So on behalf of Brian and myself and Dr. Badams, I thank all of you for taking the time to stand up here and share what we've been doing, and I thank all of you for coming. I don't know if you want anything else.
Yeah, I think this team up here tonight made the hours and hours and hours of hard work that went into this reconfiguration plan look easy, but we really do owe a debt of gratitude to our board for supporting us through this process, which sometimes has felt pretty rushed, and also to all our administrators and staff who've really stepped up and made this possible. And we're committed to making this work next year. We know that it's the fiscally responsible thing to do, but also it's the right thing for kids, because we're going to be able to offer a much better program as a result of all this hard work. So at this point, we were going to break out into small group sessions, but given the size of the audience, it makes more sense just to have the question and answer here. So if anybody from the public has any questions on our reconfiguration plan or the presentation in general, if they'd want to come up and ask a question.
Good evening, everyone. I just, in regards to the coaching, I guess just there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of rumors and buzz going around. I'm a swim parent. There's a soccer parent here tonight. There's just a lot of rumor. I like to try to quell it if I can, but I don't know myself. So I guess two questions. How are the coaches going to be chosen? Because I know we're kind of consolidating. And when will the parents and students find out who the coaches are going to be?
So right now we're in the process of selecting the coaches for the fall, winter, and spring sports. So those are all going to roll out here over the next couple weeks. In fact, tonight we're going to share with the school board in our executive session the recommendations. And we did have a committee go through the process and help us select the coaches. It's based on what we have to do as far as our teaching contract, as well as the I guess the requirements are that we put in there to make sure that we get qualified candidates for each of these positions. So we put a committee together to really put the qualifications in place before we put the postings up, so that we made sure that we had qualified candidates apply for the position.
So for example, if a current coach or a coach from last year is not a school district teacher and a school district teacher applies for that position, would they be considered, you know, maybe a little bit of a stronger candidate because they're a district teacher when you mentioned contracts?
Right, so the way our teacher contract works right now, if there's two candidates that have equal qualifications for the position, and one is internal and one is external, we have to choose the internal candidate. So that
Okay.
it's not necessarily always going to be an internal candidate gets the job. It depends on the qualifications.
And I guess then my final question then is when, for instance, the swim team is what I'm thinking of, because of course that's my, where my child is and where I've been, well, since 2010, 11, I've had kids in the swim team. So if we get a different coach than what we have now, is there going to be a plan to try to make like a seamless transition for this coach that is going to come on to for our team? It's 50 kids because Central and Strong Vincent were coached together. They, you know, the kids have goals, plans, ways of doing things. Are they going to try to work with the teams to have a seamless transition?
Mike, can you speak to the transition plans?
Yep, so the athletic transition plans with the coaches, once those coaches get into place, they'll start programs and contacting students throughout the summer or in the fall to get students in, whether it's a fall sport, a winter sport, a spring sport. All sports are doing some type of programming all year round, it seems like. So they will be contacting students. They will be, you know, possibly touching base with some of the other coaches, like what you're talking about. It could be, you know, maybe one of the other coaches that if they didn't get the job, they may start working together on a job. So there will be a seamless transition once the coaches get into place. Students will start to be notified, and possibly it'll be out into the media when the coaches get identified.
And if I could just add too, again, with that point on communication, we are working really hard on that. And we intend to use, for example, the one-call system, the website, the social media more and more over the summer, so that if we missed students before the end of the year, if a team starts to have, you know, open gyms or conditioning, we're going to really, from central office, be pushing out that information so students are all notified and families can take advantage. And I also would say that, you know, as part of the process, even the applicants for those coaching positions were really told that unification is key here. That's really important, and I really think that's been driven home with all of them. So whoever gets the position will understand that has to be a top priority.
That's great, and I think that'll maybe ease the nerves of the kids are talking about it and things are going back and forth. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions? All right, thank you very much for coming, and we are going to have our regular committee of the whole meeting in the library following this meeting. Mr. Petrunger, are we going to take a couple-minute break, or do you want? Okay. Okay, so I guess we'll take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 7 o'clock. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.